Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you could find. I am your host, Nick. You are listening to episode 121 of Talking Blue. We are here today to recap the Dodgers and the Pirates series, which wrapped up a few hours ago. I'm getting on here a little bit late, but I had a lot going on this weekend. It was celebrating my birthday. I was away this weekend. You could probably tell by my tan on my face, so I wasn't able to watch all of these games as closely as I normally do, but I was able to catch most of Sunday's game, a lot of Saturday's game, the beginning of Friday's game, so I have all my thoughts on those things. Dodgers have won 6 straight. Things are looking pretty good as of late, starting to begin to put a lot of those second half post All-Star break struggles behind them. We'll see if that can continue this week against a couple of decent teams in the Braves and the Tigers. We got a lot of things to talk about. Some injury updates. Andy Pages, new injury update. A couple other guys as well. Some updates. We're going to talk about the 3 starting pitchers who all pitched great in the series. Yamamoto, Skubal, Snell. Not a lot of offensive stuff to go over, honestly. It was kind of all 3 boring games. I'm going to do some breakdowns on Tanner Scott as well. I figured why not, because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about anyways. So you can look forward to all those things. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. All right, so we're going to start off with some injury and roster stuff. Then we will get to the 3 games in order between the Dodgers and the Padres. All right, so we'll start at the top with the newest, biggest injury, Andy Pages. All right, this happened Friday night in the middle of that game. He got hit on the hand, I believe his left hand, 100-mile-an-hour fastball from Bubba Chandler, fractured his left hand. One of the biggest, whenever a guy's at the plate and you're thinking about avoiding an injury, it's one of those things whenever you see a pitch inside to a hitter where, you're taught as a hitter, obviously as a hitter, you're thinking, you're getting ready to swing. The ball's coming into the zone. You can't stop your momentum, and it hits your hands. And, anytime a guy gets hit on the hand, it's scary. As soon as it's something, someone that has a fastball like that, when you get hit by 100 miles an hour, immediately scary thoughts. You could tell right away he didn't feel good. He stays in the game like so many guys do when they get hit, but then eventually came out of the game. Was hopeful it wouldn't be too bad, but of course you get the news. Fractured left hand. He'll be out. Generally that is like about a month of a month for those injuries, maybe even more, which is potentially the scary part about Paz. Now they have said all the updates that have come out. So he suffered a left hand fracture. He had a compression screw inserted into the bone to speed up the healing. I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know what that means, but something did technically have a little surgery, something placed into his hand that will help with the healing. He is expected to be back at the very end of the regular season. All right, you can go back to 2024. Mookie Betts had a very similar injury. I believe it was about a month or so, a little more than that. So we are kind of right in that last portion of the time of the season where something like this could happen and it wouldn't be a huge problem. Obviously, if something like this happened in mid-September, that would be a big problem. So given the date, it is August 23rd. They are still hopeful that, this could heal pretty quickly, but you never know with these kind of things. I would expect him to be back like literally the last week of the regular season, but it is something that the thing that sucks is because of it's a hands injury. It's not really a muscle. It's not really anything you can rehab. You just have to wait for it to heal. We're not going to get many updates on Pages probably till like mid-September. So hopefully the compression screw that they inserted does speed things up, and then probably in a few weeks from now, 2 to 3 weeks, we can get some updates on him and like where he's at, how close could he actually be to beginning baseball stuff. So it doesn't make things ideal for the postseason, even if he does come back, because it's not great to come off the IL after a month or more and then be thrusted into a postseason race, especially when you consider that Andy Pages was one of the many Dodgers, but the Dodger that struggled the most last postseason, from regular season to postseason. He had one of the worst postseasons of all time, actually, so I don't love any of that, but Pages has had a great season once again. So it sucks to see. They call up Alek Thomas, replace him on the roster. He will go right into center field to replace Pages. Probably won't play against lefties if I had to imagine. Like Tommy Edman, Kike Hernandez will get some time out there. But Thomas is the one who gets called up. Previously was an outfielder for the Diamondbacks. Has actually been a decent player at times. He's been in OKC for the Dodgers all season, I believe, or I think since the very beginning of the season when he was DFA'd by the Diamondbacks. Has had good offensive stretches at points throughout his career, especially in that 2023 postseason run for the Diamondbacks, and has been usually a pretty fantastic defensive center fielder. I do think that the numbers have dropped off a bit, so I don't think he's still an elite defensive center fielder, but somebody that have no problem running out there, and he actually had some hits the last 2 days that he's been in the lineup. So that sucks for Pages. That is potentially very, very scary, especially with the lineup going through ups and downs in the second half, and Pages, has been really streaky throughout the regular season and throughout the entire season, I should say, but as a whole has been very consistent in that he's, has an OPS over 800, over 20 home runs, has had a very nice season. Unfortunate. Hopefully he can come back, and the Dodgers have played well the last week, so hopefully they can keep that up, and we don't really have to worry about, ever since Pages went down, the offense started to, or the team started to struggle, whatever the case. So we'll have to see. But we got a couple other injury things, so I want to keep this moving. Edwin Diaz, Justin Robleski. I talked about them previously, how there was a chance that these guys were a little bit of some phantom IL stuff. I think Robleski's was more real. I really have always thought that Diaz's injury was a true phantom IL. A lot of people didn't seem to think that. I saw on X. I don't think that they're fully phantom ILs, like complete fake injuries. I do think that Diaz definitely had something in the neck, and Robleski definitely had forearm tightness. But I really believe that it was hey, Diaz, we're going to try to get you back in line, one last chance to get things good for you, for a chance to be on the postseason roster, and just start to pitch better. And then Robleski with the innings limit. So Diaz threw a bullpen on Saturday and is expected back around September 1st. All right, everything has gone well with him. Justin Robleski, same thing. Threw a bullpen session on Saturday. He is expected to build up as a multi-inning reliever. All things that I expected. I figured Robleski's days were done in the rotation, would come back as a reliever piece. We'll see how that goes. Both of those guys look like they'll definitely be back. Ohtani, all right, Shohei, probably should have started with this, but he threw his first live BP on Saturday, throwing to hitters for the first time, all right, in a while. Looks like he'll need maybe one more live BP before one more time facing hitters before he could actually be back in a game. There was some comments from Dave Roberts, I believe, that said he could actually be back next week. Now, I don't know if that means literally this upcoming week. Maybe he means more of the following week, but it looks like he is very, very close to coming back, and they actually said they're going to try to build him up to be ready to pitch like 5 innings come postseason time. So far, it looks like, if Ohtani's able to come back, no issues. We're starting to get that super rotation that we really hoped for. Ohtani's going to build back up slowly, so we'll see how that progresses. Guys like Lauer have officially gone to the pen, with Glass now coming back in a couple days. Kind of will probably be the piggyback man for Ohtani, maybe even Robleski as a multi-inning guy, so we'll see how that progresses, but he is very close to being back. Dalton Rushing. All right, he's expected to begin a throwing program soon, targeting a return to catching in September. I actually did not expect that. We'll see how this plays out because he's still dealing with the UCL injury, which is potentially scary stuff. But it looks like there's actually a chance he does come back as a catcher. I think that a lot of that will actually depend on when Will Smith comes back and how does he look, and then can Rushing kind of just go back to being the backup. But it's not, what I thought, which was season-ending surgery or season done for. So that's great. Tyler Glass now, only update on him is he will make his return from injury in Atlanta Tuesday night. Will Klein, largely symptom-free with the elbow. He is currently playing catch. Actually has a chance to be back at some point before the postseason. Again, something else I didn't really expect because a lot of the updates were like Klein was going to need some kind of surgery and it was too late in the season, but it actually looks like there's a chance he could rehab and, try to build back up, and I wouldn't be shocked if by the end of September he makes a return. A lot of guys can come back in September, especially around that September 1st deadline when rosters expire. I wouldn't be surprised to see like Robleski and Diaz, brought up or, changed out for somebody on the roster. Last guy, Will Smith, set to begin a rehab assignment on Tuesday. This is so exciting. Could be back in the Dodgers lineup as soon as September 1st. All right, so like a week and a half, 2 weeks or so. So hyped for that. That's amazing. That's going to be a great boost for the lineup, for the catching position, all that stuff. And then Blake Trinan, last guy, still currently rehabbing in the minor leagues, probably could also be activated around September 1st. So the Dodgers have played well the last week, which is great, but are dealing with a lot of injuries right now. And September could be crazy because literally all of those guys that I just mentioned can come back. And in the case of everyone outside of Will Klein and Dalton Rushing, all of them probably will be back. So that is a lot of roster things coming to fruition. But let's get to these games because we're already over 10 minutes into this episode. Game 1, which was Friday night in LA. Yoshinobu Yamamoto's on the mound taking on the young right-hander Bubba Chandler, the young hard-throwing right-hander. I might have the Pirates get on the board first in the top of the first, thanks to Nick Gonzalez, an RBI single, gets the Buccos up 1-0. Dodgers do respond, though, in the bottom of the first. Max Muncy, his 26th home run of the year, off of Bubba Chandler. 2-run shot to make it 2-1. Pirates tie the game in the third inning. It's a 2-2 game. Nick Gonzalez once again. Dodgers go ahead in the third inning. An RBI single from Mookie Betts makes it 4-2. Pirates actually tie the game in the eighth inning. A home run off of Kyle Hurt. This is from O'Neal Cruz to make it a 4-4 game. So a big swing from O'Neal Cruz. We fast forward all the way to the 10th inning, extra innings for the Dodgers, and Tommy Edman comes through with an RBI single to win the game, to walk off the Pirates. Win game 1 of the series, final score of 5-4. Yamamoto for 6.1, Brock Stewart for 2/3, Kyle Hurt for 1/3, Edgardo Henriquez pitches a big 1.2, and then Evan Phillips, who got the win, he pitched that 10th inning in the extra inning with the ghost runner on second base. Dodgers win by a score of 5-4, a nice win in extra innings. We'll start with Yamamoto, who was pretty good in this game. 6.1 innings pitched. He gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. All right, he lowers his ERA to 2.61. All right, so first glance at Yamamoto. This was one of the games that I really didn't get a chance to watch a ton of, so I don't have like a feel for his pitch-by-pitch basis and stuff like that like I normally do. But looking at the numbers, 14 of his 16 whiffs came against the splitter and the four-seam fastball. So the splitter-fastball combination was really working for Yamamoto in this game. Maybe the strikeout stuff is starting to tick up for Yamamoto. So if you take a look at his first 15 starts of the year, he had a 24.1% strikeout rate, which is about league average, I believe. His following 8 starts, so his last 8 starts, which is like the last 2 months or so, a little less than that, 26.2% strikeout rate, which is a pretty solid strikeout rate. All right, his 2.61 ERA is 8th best in all of baseball. A guy that we know how dominant of a season he had last year, where he really took that next step. We know the contract he got and how big of a name he was in Japan. His first year had a little bit of some injuries, started to make a name for himself in the postseason, though. Last year had his first dominant regular season. We know what he did in the postseason. This year, he's just quietly had a very underrated season. He's still top 10 pitcher in the game, top 10 in the National League. Really, really, really good. The only thing that's been different is a little less strikeout stuff, but he's kind of in exchange for that, he's had better command. The average exit velocity has been down. The hard hit rates have been down. So he's kind of traded soft contact for swing and miss, and he still pitches deep into games as anyone in baseball. The command has been a big reason for that, and he still does get strikeouts and whiffs. And when you combine all the pitches he throws, the command, how deep he goes into the games, he is as good a pitcher as we have in baseball. And when you look at some of his numbers, like I said, 2.61 ERA is 8th best in baseball. He's second in WHIP, third in opponent average. He has the 11th best ground ball rate in baseball. Since the start of 2025, like I mentioned a second ago, only 9 pitchers have thrown more innings than Yamamoto. All right, so he's top 10 in innings pitched since the beginning of last season. In that time period, he is third in ERA at 2.55, first in opponent average, first at 1.84. Better than Skeens, Skubal, Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez. The only pitcher in that time period to have a sub 200 batting average against. All right, 184 batting average against since the beginning of 2025. Second in expected ERA, second in WHIP, seventh in expected FIP, seventh in strikeout rate, and seventh in ground ball rate. One of the better pitchers in the game at combining strikeouts and ground balls, and he's fifth in pitcher FWAR in that time period. He's without a question a top 10 pitcher in the game. Most people, including myself, would probably say top 5. It's just ironic that the pitcher the Dodgers acquired at the deadline is one of the few pitchers in the world that are actually probably better than him in Tarek Skubal. He is an ace. Him and Skubal are going to be co-aces this postseason, along with Glasnow, Ohtani, and Snell, but they're going to be like the co-ace, the 1-1s, and I do think that they're going to do some historic things in this postseason. I can't wait to watch those two guys. All right, so the rest of this game, Dodgers have played a lot of games like this lately, which is like, it's good because a lot of them have resulted in wins, but the formula has not been too great. All right, fall down early. They fell down 1-0, claw back into the game, kind of maybe even play a little bit of a back-and-forth game. Bullpen gives up a late lead, or particularly on a home run, like we saw Kyle Hurt in this 8th inning against O'Neill Cruz, and then take the lead or win the game later. We saw that a lot last week against the Royals. Even saw that earlier this week with the Rockies. Not as much against the Rockies. I think there was only one game. And then the prior week before that with the Brewers. So, but the bullpen, Edgardo Henriquez, after that 8th inning when Kyle Hurt came out of the game, he did his job getting out of that 8th and pitching the 9th. Evan Phillips kept it at a tie game in that 10th inning with the ghost runner on second. Like I said, he induced a big double play with the bases loaded to get out of that inning. And then Tommy Edman, clutch. We know Tommy tanks. He comes up with his second hit of the game to end the night. All right, so pretty easy, not easy, but a pretty good game, pretty good win. Not a ton of offense, but Dodgers have been winning some one-run close games as of late. And then before we go to Game 2, I just wanted to credit Max Muncy. All right, he hit his 26th home run of the year in that first inning. By the way, that was on a 100.7 mile per hour fastball, the second fastest pitch on a home run of his career. All right, you got to go back to 2022 when he hit a home run against the Royals that year. He is slugging .586 in the second half, which is 5th best in baseball. A lot of slug for Muncy. The on-base has gone up a little bit as of late, where for a lot of the second half, it was all slug, no on-base, which is not Muncy's game. Usually it's slug and on-base. His .514 slugging percentage on the year is 14th best in baseball. His .862 OPS is 16th. His .135 WRC plus is 19th. He's been a top 20 hitter in baseball all season. His 3.9 FWAR is 3rd among all MLB third basemen. It's gonna be close, but he's on pace to surpass his career high in FWAR, which I think is 4.5. That was in 2021. So he's on pace. It's going to be very close. He's got to keep hitting, but the defense has been a big part of that. The defense taken such a big step this year, and he's been such a consistent offensive player. And, I saw a great video, Buster Only and another guy podcast over Twitter. They were talking about a lot of baseball's dynasties over history, and on a team's dynasty, the guys who are the superstars, like the Yankees in the 20s. You had Lou Gehrig, and you had Babe Ruth, or the Big Red Machine, or the other Yankees in the 90s, or a couple other teams, and you always know the superstars, but you also have these other underrated kind of players. Like in the Yankee days in the 90s, you think of guys like Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, or whatever, and then you have all these other guys that were like Paul O'Neill and Scott Brocious and other underrated players, and Muncy is this dynasty Dodgers version of that, because obviously you got guys like Shohei and Freddie Freeman and Mookie and a lot of the incredible starting pitchers that they have. Muncy is like this underrated piece, which he definitely is. Won't be in the Hall of Fame someday. Maybe will be in the Dodgers Hall of Fame, but underrated hitter for sure in this generation. Let's go to Game 2. That was Saturday night. Tarek Skubal is on the mound, taking on Jared Jones, another young flamethrower for the Pirates. So this game started off very similar. Pirates get on the board first in the top of the first. An RBI triple from O'Neill Cruz makes it 2-0 Pirates. Right after that, Rafael Flores Jr. makes it 3-0 with an RBI ground out. Dodgers fall down 3-0, skip ahead to the 4th inning. Teoscar Hernandez with an RBI single to make it a 3-1 game. A couple batters later, Alek Thomas in his first start with the Dodgers, RBI single into left, makes it 3-2. Dodgers chip away, and then we go to the 5th inning. Kyle Tucker, we love to see this. Obviously, his massive home struggles as of late. He singles into right. Dodgers go on top 4-3, and they actually hold on all the way until the ninth inning. Tanner Scott gets the save. They win by a score of 4-3. Skubal went 7 innings. Evan Phillips for 2/3. Jack Dreyer for 1/3. And then Tanner Scott, like I said, in the ninth. He gets his 19th save of the season. I'm going to talk about Skubal and Scott in a second. All right, so they win by a score of 4-3, and they get the series win. All right, so let's talk about Tarik Skubal. This was definitely his best start of his Dodger tenure in the 4 starts he's had so far. Definitely the one that was the most dominant. So he goes 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. All right, he dominated the Pirates. 11 strikeouts, a lot of strikeouts. That's actually the most strikeouts in for a pitcher for the Dodgers this season. So it was a little bit of a weird start, but all things considered, kind of a dominant start. All right, so 23 whiffs and 11 strikeouts. Most whiffs in a game for Tarik Skubal this year. Most whiff for the Dodgers in 2026 for a pitcher. Most strikeouts for a Dodger in 2026. All right, so 10 of those whiffs, 10 of those 23 whiffs. 23 is a big number, by the way. 10 of those whiffs came against his 4-seam fastball. All right, before putting on a Dodger uniform, Skubal averaged 96.7 miles an hour on the 4-seamer with a 24.8% whiff rate. After the trade, he's averaging 97.2 miles an hour, so an increase in velo, and the whiff rate on that pitch has gone up 27 to 27.2. So the fastball has been actually a little bit better since he's been in a Dodger uniform, velo-wise and whiff rate-wise. All right, so also his slider also has been pretty different. He had 6 whiffs on that pitch in this game. The slider before and after the trade. So before he got traded, it was 89.3 miles an hour, 28.3% whiff rate. Since being a Dodger, since putting on a Dodger uniform, the velo is up to 91 miles an hour, so he's throwing a harder slider, and a 40% whiff rate. A big increase in whiffs on the slider. All right, so the fastball-slider combination. Normally, Skubal's known for the changeup, which he still throws a lot of, and that's still one of the better pitches in the game. But I thought it was interesting that the 4-seamer velo's up a little bit with the whiff rate, and then the slider has actually been a very good pitch for him as well. I'd be interested to see if he will increase the usage rate on that pitch, because right now it's about the same when he was with the Tigers. But as a Dodger, 24 innings pitched. He has a 3.38 ERA, which is nothing crazy. 2.66 FIP, a 3.16 expected FIP, 2.28 batting average against, 3.44 slug. I like that. And then a 30% strikeout rate, which is great. And then a 7.1% walk rate. Again, one of the reasons why Skubal is probably the best pitcher in the game. Elite strikeout stuff and strikeout numbers, and elite walk and command numbers. Doesn't allow walks, gets a lot of strikeouts. Does that better than anyone in the game. All right. First time he's thrown over 100 pitches in 2026 this season, have both come in his last 2 starts. I like that as well. That shows that he's healthy. And a lot of times you see guys that are like trying to get that contract free agent year. They don't do this a lot, but he has not thrown over 100 pitches this entire season until these last 2 starts where he threw 109 against who did he pitch against last week? The Brewers. 109 pitches against the Brewers, and then 106 pitches yesterday against the Pirates. So he's going deeper into the game. I really like that. Ironically, the days he's had to pitch, the bullpen has been a little bit more taxed, so that's been part of the reason. But I like that. Going deep into the game, that's pretty big. So Skubal's been pretty good so far, and I think that the last 2 starts have been even better than the first 2 starts, and we're going to continue to see him get better. If it really wasn't for that 1 inning where he gave up 3 earned runs, this would have been a even more dominant start than it already was. But great stuff from Skubal. All right, the rest of this game, it was another 1-run game. Fell down 3-0 in the first, but slowly chipped away in the 4th and the 5th inning. Teoscar, Alec Thomas in the 4th inning, the 2 RBI hits. And then Kyle Tucker, his first hit at home since August 2nd. That gave the Dodgers the lead. Muncy, another big day at the plate, 3 hits. Then the bullpen did its job, not giving up a big homer, finally, and locks down the win. I wanted to talk about Tanner Scott specifically. He locked down the save, and I just wanted to give him some credit and shine a light on how good he's been. And really the things that he's done to kind of go from one of the more disappointing seasons in 2025. We talked about it all year last year, how bad he was, to being one of the more lethal, dominant, strong relievers in 2026. I thought he was going to have a bounce-back season, and he's actually been even better than I could have anticipated. The MVP of the Dodgers bullpen this season, no question. All right, like I said, I thought he was going to bounce back, but man, he's been great, even better than I would have expected. His ERA has gone from 4.74 a year ago to 2.24 this year. Why has he been better? What has he done to change his game and to have these better numbers? His barrel rate is down from 9% to 7.3. His hard hit rate is down 10%. From 42.3 to 33.1. His strikeout rate is up from 25.3% last year to 32% this year. His whiff rate is up 29.5% to 35.3%. His walk rate is down. All right, 7.2% last year, which was a career high. It's down even more to 5.5%. His chase rate is up from 35.8 to 40.9. All right, so you look at all those numbers, less hard hit balls, less barrels, more strikeouts, more whiffs, less walks, and more chase. Across the board, your number is going to be better. He's doing everything at a much higher clip. He's the only reliever in baseball with a strikeout rate over 30% and a walk rate under 6%. That's impressive because a lot of relievers go for the strikeout. They have the great stuff, and they will allow walks as a result of that. Scott has completely changed his game the last couple of years. Strikeout pitcher who now also doesn't allow walks. All right. His reliever rankings, he is first in chase rate. Because of that great slider that he throws, he gets so much chase on that pitch. In fact, the most in baseball. First in chase rate, 6th in whiff rate, 11th in strikeout rate, and he's also 11th in expected FIP. Those are the reliever rankings. Probably the biggest reason for his resurgence in this season, the biggest reason that he's gone from, the numbers he posted last year to the really good numbers this year. The biggest reason is probably because of his opponent's slug and the less extra base hits that he's given up this year. So his opponent's slug went from 460 in 2025 to 306 in 2026. That's the 5th biggest decrease in opponent's slug among all pitchers from a year ago to this year. All right, the 5th biggest decrease. All right, he's turned his game around in a big way. He gave up 11 home runs last year. He's only given up 4 this year, and he's only pitched 5 less innings so far because he did have an injury last year where he pitched 57 innings. He's already at 51 innings this year, so he's almost had the same amount of innings total, and he's given up only 4 home runs so far. All right, one of the things he's kind of changed to his game in terms of his pitch mix because he's only a 2-pitch guy. All right, and this is something that I think Edwin Diaz should look into. He's thrown his slider more than his fastball. So last year he threw his slider 47%. This year it's up to 52%. Last year the fastball was 52%. This year it's down to 47%. So he's basically switched from throwing the slider 47 to 52 and the fastball from 52 to 47. He's kind of flipped the usage on those pitches. It's still close, obviously, because he's only a 2-pitch guy, but he throws more sliders than fastballs now. The slider has been really, really good. All right, it has a 155 batting average against with a 42% whiff rate. The 5th best slider in the game according to run value. 5th best batting average against and 3rd best slug against among all sliders in the game. 10th highest whiff rate among all sliders. His fastball also has been much better this year. It has a big decrease in opponent's slug. 520 slug against his fastball last year. It's down to 434 this year, which still isn't great. Basically, that's because the only home runs he's given up this year have been on fastballs, but it's obviously a big decrease from last year. The whiff rate on the fastball has also gone up from 22.6 last year to 28%. So across the board, everything's been better. All right. And another massive reason is because of how much more effective he's been against left-handed hitters this year. Very oddly, last year was not good against lefties. So his slugging percentage last year against lefties was .621. Lefties slugged .621 off of him. That's basically what Ohtani does in his career. This year, lefties have slugged 200. 200. All right, I wasn't able to get the same year-to-year changes. I would imagine that is the biggest difference in left-handed opponent slug from last year to this year. No home runs allowed to any left-handed hitters this year so far. He's going to get some big outs for the Dodgers come October. I really believe that. We'll see what happens with Diaz. He's been so good up until this point with Diaz struggling that I don't even think you might have to just consider keeping him the closer. But regardless, because of how good he's been against lefties and stuff like that, I wouldn't be mad if he was like a setup guy or, just a fireman. But he's been amazing, and it's been fun to watch because last year we know that, he was killed so much by the media and really by the fans. Coming off that free agent deal, he gave up so many homers last year, and he's just, really gotten to the lab, it looks like, and really has changed his game with the pitch mix, dominating lefties once again. He used to be a guy that really just lived upstairs with the fastball and blew hitters away. Now he's relying more on the nasty down slider, like down and into righties, back foot slider, away from lefties, using the fastball for that. His fastball velo has actually jumped up a tad. Not a bunch, but like instead of 96, it's like 96 and a half. Touching 97, 98 regularly. Just looks filthy out there and comfortable at bat. Who also, and then again, on top of that, he pounds the strike zone now. So he's not allowing walks and having as many base runners, which that wasn't really a problem for him last year either, but still he's gotten even better at that. And just leaving less pitches in the heart of the zone. And it's been really fun to watch. Like when he comes into the game, it feels like the game is going to be over. So let's go ahead and get to the final game of this series. Blake Snell versus Lake Backer, bullpen game for the Pirates. Let's get into that game. So, in the bottom of the first, the Dodgers get on the board first. RBI ground out from Mookie Betts, grounds into a double play. Kind of the worst way to get an RBI in my opinion, but it counts no less the same. 1-0 Dodgers. Skip ahead to the fourth inning. Bottom of the order was doing some work. Alek Thomas with another RBI single. He's had 2 great games so far. He makes it a 2-0 game. Right after that, Hunter Fiducia with a RBI single to make it 3-0. Later on in the fifth inning, an RBI ground out from Max Muncy would make it 4-0, and that would actually be the entire game. The Dodgers shut out the Pirates. They get the win. They complete the sweep. They win their 6th straight game. Blake Snell pitches 6. Edgardo Henriquez pitches 1. Brock Stewart pitches 1. Alex Vesia pitches 1. Kind of continue to struggle in that 9th inning. I still trust Vesia a lot. I think he'll turn it around soon, but he has kind of struggled for a little bit now, and maybe has fallen down the trust tree for Dave Roberts as opposed to some other guys. But let's talk about Snell before we get into some other stuff. He goes 6 innings pitched, allows just 2 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, strikes out 6, continues a great stretch since he's come off the IL. 3 games so far. Fantastic once again. No earned runs, allowed only 2 hits. The main talking point with him in terms of his individual pitches since he's come off the IL has been his curveball. In this game today was his fastball. So he had 19 whiffs on the day, which is the most he's had since he's come off the IL. 10 of them came on his 4-seam fastball. All right, the command wasn't as sharp as it's been in the first 2 games, but the fastball still was electric, leading to a lot of swing and miss. In the elite stuff, this was more of the old Blake Snell with a couple jams, not as many quick innings, the longer innings, but still getting out of innings with the great strikeout stuff. But he's looked really, really good, honestly, like amazing in those 3 starts so far. His total numbers in the 3 starts, he's pitched 18 innings pitched, 7 hits allowed, only 2 earned runs, 7 walks, 21 strikeouts in 18 innings pitched, 51 whiffs. All right, he's got an ERA of 1, a 1.17 opponent average in that time. His fastball is averaging 96.1, which is a career high for him. 36% whiff rate, 30.4% strikeout rate. Those are both dominant elite numbers as well. He's been fantastic, super fun to watch. I actually wasn't super locked in on him today because I was doing a lot of work on my computer, but he was pitching good, led the Dodgers to a sweep, and we love to see all that stuff. The rest of this game, it was honestly a boring game, but a win is a win. The bottom of the order did a lot of good things. The RBI hits from Thomas and Hunter Fiducia, both with 2 outs in that 4th inning. The bullpen did their job. After a 3-run first inning against Skubal the previous night, the Dodgers held the Pirates to 17 consecutive scoreless innings. So that's great. Pitching staff, which as a whole is pitching great the last week with a lot of these guys coming off the IL. But still, if you look at the numbers, the last couple weeks and months haven't been as good. And it looks like they are about to take off because Snell, he's been fantastic. Skubal has been getting better every Dodger start. Yamamoto starting to increase the strikeout rate a little bit has been fantastic. They're about to get Glasnow back. And in a week from now, we might even be talking about Ohtani. So things are looking good in the starting rotation. I have a feeling they are about to go on a similar run they did last year. when those guys, Snell and Glasnow, came back and the rotation started to look loaded. I have a feeling they're going to be in a similar spot. Hopefully the offense can just continue to do enough. I would like to see the offense start to look really good with guys like Mookie and Freddie, and we want the offense to look good. They're still kind of working their way through it. There wasn't really a ton of offense in this series, but at the end of the day, the Dodgers, are kind of built more on their pitching, but you don't want to see the offense go too much into a lull. But they have won 6 straight. That's great. Starting to put a lot of those struggles behind them, but they do have a test coming up for them, a big test, because they got to go to Atlanta to take on the Braves, who are the other one of the 3 best teams in baseball and in the National League. It's them, it's the Brewers and the Braves, and they got a test against them, and then they're also going to take on the Tigers this weekend, who have struggled as of late, but are still like a pretty decent team. Glasnow will pitch Tuesday against Bryce Elder. Then it'll be Roki Sasaki against A.J. Smith-Shawver Wednesday night, the young righty, and then Yamamoto will pitch Thursday night against Chris Sale. That'll be a fantastic matchup. So big series for the NL seeding. Dodgers have a 5-game lead currently. The Braves are currently playing the Brewers right now on TV, so I don't know. But they have a 5-game lead over the Braves for the 2 seed. That's big. All right, the Braves took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers back in May. So Dodgers are going to have to win this series to try to get the advantage over them in a potential tiebreaker scenario for the 2 seed. If the Dodgers were able to just win 2 out of 3 and then they split the season series at 3 games apiece, I'm not sure how it goes after that. If the Dodgers were to tie the Braves, I guess it would either go to runs scored or something like that. I don't know. But that'll be something to keep an eye on. If the Dodgers were able to sweep, that would do a lot for them in the standings, in the final standings with the seeding and all that stuff. So going to need to win this series and try to take advantage of big, potential big things in a potential tiebreaker scenario. So that's all I have for you guys today. Was a little bit of a boring series, but the Dodgers sweep. That's fantastic. Take care of, this is what we want to see, like close the season out down this stretch and get hot. I would love to see like a series win at Atlanta, maybe even a sweep in Detroit. I forget where the Dodgers go after that, but they do have one of the weaker schedules to end the season. After they play the Braves and the Tigers, they don't play a bunch of good teams after that. So that's good. They the strength of schedule is in their favor down the stretch. So hopefully they can continue to really turn it on. I really would like to see the offense do some things this week. Mookie has looked better as of late. Kyle Tucker did have some hits in this series. Muncy's hitting the ball great right now. But after that, we got the 2 backup catchers that are filling in for our injured catchers. Tommy Edman has began to cool off since he had a great stretch, when he came off the IL 2 months ago. Freddie's been hitting the ball and hitting his singles, but the extra base hits and the power haven't been there. Muncy's been fantastic as of late. Teoscar's been ice cold. We know about Tucker. They just lost Paz, so we're going to need guys like Mookie, who's going to be hitting at the 3 spot now. I'm going to need to see some extra baits from Freddie. And really, I would love to see Shohei, who's been great as of late, had a cold weekend, but, lately he's been hot. So we're going to need the offense to do a couple big things. With the pitching where it's at right now, I think the pitching's going to be fantastic. I mean, like I said, you're going to see Glasnow, Sasaki, Yamamoto this week, and then you're going to get Snell, and then it'll be Sasaki, and then someone else over the weekend. Maybe even Glasnow again on Sunday. Maybe not. I don't know about that. With the pitching they're going to be running out there lately, you don't have to score a ton of runs, but if the offense can actually wake up and get hot, this team's going to become unbeatable very, very quickly. So that's all my thoughts for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back on here to recap the Dodgers-Braves series, I believe, later this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Follow us on social media at Talking Blue Pod. Follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X, and I'll see you guys later this week. Have a great rest of your week and the great rest of your night, everybody.